you can go in there and work out any little spots that are left, either with a pointy stone or your hands. So you can go in there and you're like, all right, everything's soft and loose now. What's left? And then boom, done. Let me show you a little bit more side work, and then we'll do a side of the stone work. And then I'll show you some contrast. And some fun shaped stones. Always dry them off and keep them covered. Then oil them. Annalise is fun to work with because she likes it so hot. So you can use the melty advantage of the stones. And some clients really don't like it hot enough, so you can't do as much melting. Alright, so I love to roll for origin and insertion work. For example, on the deltoid and traps, we can roll that spine of the scapula, acromion process, where the muscle and tendon meets the bone, not where it's boniest. Right where teres major and teres minor are. And if you want more heat, just don't do a 90-degree angle. Then the client will feel more of the heat of the stone. There's a tight spot there in teres minor. And that particular technique is really nice on any borders. For example, you can use an even bigger stone on the sacral border and roll like this. And put it on an angle. They'll get more melting because they'll feel more of the heat will be on them. My favorite scapula stone. That's just made for scapulas. May I put my hand under your shoulder? So you can get a stone like this to get under the scapula. You could roll it. Her scapula doesn't want to lift all the way. But some people, you can get this like literally under the scapula. We'll need to do another demo to show that.
I like this stone. Your hand is not tired too.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, there we go. How's it? Is it too intense there? Okay. Yeah, we'll have to show that on somebody whose scapula likes to lift up more. But that's a nice shape even on top of the scapula. It's shaped to match it. And you can do pin and stretch and MFR, but we'll save that for tomorrow. Okay, so last thing we'll do is contrast. Couple things about contrast. You first of all communicate very clearly with your client and get permission. You don't want to ever randomly shock them with cold. And again, if you have one hot and one cold, it's a lot easier on them. Either moving with both, or you could have a hot and a cold on different sides of a joint. So let's get hot. Cold. The cold ones don't stay as cold as the hot ones stay hot. So I'm going to get out the hot one first. try to. Dry it off still. Okay, so I'm going to start with the hot one because I'm nice. Take a breath in, let it out, and then here comes the cold one.
So the cold stone, no need to oil?
It's very confusing if you follow them by each other. Is that okay?
The cold is really intense.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
So it's the same path, but you go.
You don't always have
Hot
to
cold.
follow the same path, but I find it's a much gentler way to do it because the cold can be intense. But if you're keeping them together, it's less intense. And then when it starts to cool down, you could be... This can be a nice way to kind of like gradually cool them down. Like, see, she obviously really likes the heat, but you can see how much red there or pink there is here. So like this would be a good way to help her kind of clear out, just like a contrast. The heat brings the blood in and the cold flushes the blood out because of vasodilation and vasoconstriction. So even though she enjoys the heat more, this is very therapeutic to cool it down, but it's a gentle way to cool it down by keeping the heat there too.
Is the cold one in your left hand?
Yep. It's like the little hat trick. Are you, how's that feeling now?
It feels really good. The cold one almost feels like tickly because it's just so different from the heat.
Yeah. Some people find it tickly feeling and some people find it very confusing. If you're using hot and cold, it gets very confusing. Would you like that on the other side to cool down or not so much? I gotta show you one more really fun technique and then I'll do that. So this one you can do with 2 stones or 1 stone, but something kind of pointy, whether it's fully pointy or oblong pointy. We'll try full on pointy. So I'm going to take stones that have a pointy part and go in the lamina groove and take a walk. How's the pressure? Okay.
Are they both hot?
Yeah. But you could do contrast. And then of course, just like any other technique, you'd start off a little more superficial and more gentle. And as it warms up, you could get deeper. So like I could make a couple passes and each time get deeper and each time slow down where there's issues. So now when I go deeper, you can see my body mechanics changes, but I'm still resting the stone here, so I'm not death gripping it. And then I can really get in there. And what I want to feel is the tissue melt. There's a little stagnation. I can get more of the heat involved by angling, smaller angle like 30 degrees instead of 90. Slow down. There was a little congested area right there. And then move on. Scale of 1 to 10, 7's perfect. Where's the pressure at? I would recommend you check in quite a bit as you're learning, because the beginner tendency with hot stones while you're getting the hang of them is to really only use the heat instead of the weight. And you want to still get to that person's ideal pressure. And don't be afraid of the stones. They can get a lot of the work done for you if you use good body mechanics and really lean into them. So you could, if you had enough heat, you could take that all the way. Then obviously something like this is good for trigger points. So one-handed or two-handed. You don't have to be married to always having a stone in each hand. There's many times where it would be more effective to palpate or support with one hand and just use one stone. In fact, I could like work out the tissue, feel exactly what's going on, pinpoint it, and then add heat. Is that enough for you all to take in today, or do you want anything else? Is that enough to play with? Yeah? Okay. So, and then last but not least, this is really important, and I just didn't want to take up her actual session with it. This really for self-care, as a massage therapist using this much heat. It's very detoxifying. It's also obviously just very hot. It's very important that you drink lots of water, even electrolyte water, and really freeze your hands. It's very good for them. So I would even do this mid-session sometimes. So this is the most important part of the treatment for you. So have fun with it.